I'm sitting in the conference room, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and my boss stands at the head of the polished table with slides that look professional, practiced, and completely wrong. His voice is calm, that's what kills me. He's not angry. He's not emotional. He's just stating facts, or what he wants everyone to believe are facts. Recent performance concerns, he says, gesturing toward charts built entirely from my own work. I recognize every number, every graph, every strategic insight that came from my brain, my late nights, my research. But my name isn't on any of it. The slides are cropped, reordered, stripped of context. The work is mine. The credit is his. I feel the temperature in the room drop. Eyes shift away from me, not in anger but in quiet acceptance. Like they already knew. Like this was decided long before I walked into this room. I try to speak. My mouth opens. Nothing comes out. That silence becomes the first piece of evidence he'll use against me later. And the worst part. He knows it. He's counting on it. I can see it in the way he relaxes when I don't defend myself. I've already lost, and the meeting isn't even over. When the meeting ends, the world doesn't explode. There's no drama. That's what makes it worse. Chairs scrape against the floor. People gather their notebooks. Conversations restart too quickly, filling the gap I left behind. In the hallway outside, a colleague opens his mouth to say something to me, then closes it. His name is Justin. We used to grab lunch together. He just walks past like I'm invisible. Someone who used to ask for my input on every major decision suddenly doesn't need it anymore. The damage isn't dramatic. It's subtle, procedural, and already spreading like a virus through the office. I realize the damage isn't one big explosion. It's 1,000 small cuts. It's the way people don't make eye contact. It's how conversations stop when I approach. It's the way my boss has made me radioactive without ever saying a single word about what actually happened. I walk back to my desk and sit there staring at my computer screen. My email is already flooding. People asking for documents, asking about projects, but nobody asking how I'm doing. Nobody offering support. I'm alone in an office full of people. And I understand in that moment that silence is actually the loudest sound in the world. Late that night, I'm sitting at my kitchen table with my laptop, trying to distract myself by clearing my inbox. Delete, forward, save. Mechanical. Then I see it. A forwarded chain that doesn't belong to me. The subject line is generic enough that I almost miss it. But something makes me open it. I scroll down through the thread, reading timestamps, reading names. And then I see it. A document I authored 3 months ago. I remember writing it. I remember the late nights. I remember sending it to my boss for approval. Now it's credited to someone else entirely. The timestamp is clear. The metadata shows creation date. The language is unmistakably mine. The approach is something I'd spent weeks developing. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a miscommunication. This was preparation. He built the case against me before he fired me. He was going to use my own words, my own work, to justify removing me from leadership. The email chain is the blueprint for his plan. And he forwarded it to me by accident. Or maybe not by accident. Maybe he wanted me to see it. Maybe he wanted me to know that he'd won before I even realized we were fighting. I start reconstructing timelines with brutal clarity. Pull out my old notebooks. I check my email archives going back a year. Invitations I was quietly removed from. Meetings where decisions were made without me, then attributed to my failure to lead or my lack of vision. Praise that used to appear in writing, emails saying great work on this, suddenly stopped. My name disappeared from project announcements. My achievements became team efforts. My boss didn't destroy my reputation in one moment. He edited it line by line like he was revising a document. Each change was small enough to ignore individually. Project listed without my name. A meeting I wasn't invited to. A decision made in my absence but attributed to my choice. Together they erased me. I realize now that the big meeting wasn't the betrayal. It was the finale. It was the moment where he revealed the picture he'd been painting this whole time. He'd been rewriting my past, and I was too busy working to notice. He'd been collecting ammunition, and he fired it all at once. I rehearsed confrontation in my head 100 times that week. I imagine walking into his office. I imagine the words I'd say. HR complaints, emotional defenses, righteous anger. I imagine pointing out the documents. I imagine his shocked face. But then reality crashes in. I understand how this ends if I move too fast. If I get emotional, if I fight back, I'll be labeled defensive, difficult, unstable. The narrative is already written. The audience is already convinced. If I come in angry, I'll only prove his point. I'll be the person who can't handle pressure. The person who got upset when called out. The person who couldn't take critical feedback. The narrative is a trap, and every move I make to escape it pulls me deeper. So I decide on something different. Something radical. I'll stop talking. I'll stop defending myself. I'll stop trying to convince people that I'm right. Silence is the only move that doesn't help him. Silence is the only weapon he can't fight back against. I stop correcting people in meetings. When someone misquotes my work, I let it float unchallenged. When my boss takes credit for something I did, I just nod and take notes. When inaccurate statements are made about my performance, I don't push back. I simply become invisible. My boss relaxes visibly. His shoulders drop. His posture changes. He stops being defensive around me. He begins to speak more freely, more carelessly, assuming I've accepted my new place in the hierarchy. He believes he's won. He believes I'm broken. He believes I'll stay quiet forever. But I'm not accepting anything. I'm collecting evidence. Every careless word is a piece of the puzzle. Every misattribution is a thread. Every lie he tells is a note in my mental file. I start keeping detailed records. Not written accusations. Just facts. Who said what? When they said it. What documents showed. I watch him like a scientist watches an experiment. I observe his patterns. His habits. The way he repeats the same lies to different people, never quite getting them right. The way his confidence grows because he thinks I'm defeated. The way he becomes sloppy because he thinks there's no one left to challenge him. 2 weeks into my silence, there's a project review meeting. My boss is presenting the results of the database redesign, work I spearheaded from the ground up. He criticizes my lack of initiative on the project. He says I didn't show enough leadership. He says the final solution came together despite my passive approach. The words sting, but I write them down. I note the date. I note who's in the room. Then, 2 hours later, in a completely different meeting with a different group of people, he praises the same database redesign as part of his leadership approach. He tells them how he pushed the team to think bigger, how he drove the strategy. A junior manager named Lily, someone I've been training, looks confused. Her eyes dart between me and my boss. She's trying to reconcile the two versions he just told. I see the moment confusion turns to understanding. I see her realize that he's lying. The crack appears. The first real crack in his facade. And I know that anyone paying attention will see it too. He's not careful. He's not strategic. He just believes his own narrative so completely that he doesn't notice when it falls apart. He thinks he's smarter than everyone in the room. That's his weakness. That's where I'll exploit him. Create a system. Nothing dramatic. Just organization. I start documenting everything with precision. Version histories of documents. Calendar invites with timestamps. Archived messages. Screenshots. Audio recordings where legal. No commentary. No accusations written down anywhere. Just records. Organized chronologically. Dated precisely. Backed up in multiple locations. Truth doesn't need interpretation if it's preserved cleanly. If it's documented. If it's undeniable. I create a folder on my personal drive. I label it nothing suspicious. Just a project name. No password protection. No dramatic secrecy. Just facts. I'm quiet about it. I don't tell anyone. I don't brag. I don't hint at it. I just collect. Every meeting where he takes credit becomes a record. Every email where he misrepresents authorship becomes evidence. Every contradiction becomes a data point. I know that someday someone will need to see this. When that day comes, they won't be able to look away. They won't be able to deny it. They won't be able to argue with it. The announcement comes on a Thursday afternoon. A new project lead is being promoted for the system I designed from the ground up. It was my obsession. 18 months of work. Weekends. Code reviews. Strategy sessions. Client calls. The system was built on my vision. The new project lead is someone I trained. Someone I mentored. Someone I brought up through the ranks. I taught her everything she knows about this system. Applause fills the conference room. Everyone claps. Genuinely excited claps. She deserves it. She's good at what she does. I clap with everyone else, and the sound of my own hands is the strangest thing I've ever heard. Like I'm someone outside my body, watching myself pretend to be happy. My boss doesn't even glance at me during the announcement. He's basking in the praise for building such a strong team. He's taking credit for her success. He's reaping the benefits of her promotion as if he made it happen. He believes the narrative is settled. He believes I'm broken. He believes I'll stay quiet forever. He's only right about one of those things. In the weeks after the promotion, my boss assigns me menial tasks. Work beneath my actual skill level. Beneath my actual role. He assigns me to sit in meetings and listen to technical explanations of projects I created. He speaks slowly, like I'm not understanding him, like I need things explained multiple times. His confidence becomes arrogance. And with arrogance comes carelessness. He stops being careful about what he says. He stops worrying about witnesses. He thinks he's already won. He thinks I'm too defeated to be a threat. In a team meeting, he references a major decision about the infrastructure redesign. He attributes it entirely to his own judgment. He tells the story like he made it alone. But I have the email thread. I have him asking me for the recommendation. I have him approving my approach. I have his signature on the document. I have proof. He's not just lying. He's lying in front of witnesses. He's doing it without fear. He's doing it because he genuinely believes that no one will challenge him. That's when I know he's in trouble. That's when I know this is going to work. I watch him lean back in his chair, confident, relaxed, satisfied with himself. He's already moved on mentally. He stopped seeing me as a threat. He stopped being strategic. The predator has become lazy. And lazy predators make mistakes. I see it in the way he checks his phone during my presentation. In the way he interrupts me to redirect credit. In the way he assumes everyone's attention has already shifted away from me permanently. He's convinced himself that his narrative is unshakable. That his version of events is the only version that matters. That his authority is absolute. Two co-workers, days apart, become accidental witnesses to something that changes everything. Lily asks me about a technical approach in a hallway conversation. She thinks I signed off on it. She assumes I approved it. But I didn't. My boss claimed credit for the entire decision. I tell her the timeline gently. I show her the original documentation. "Oh," she says quietly. "That's not what he told us." Her face goes pale. She realizes what this means. She realizes that the person she reports to has been lying. She realizes that trust has been broken. Later, another colleague, Simon, mentions a budget allocation in a meeting. My boss presented it as his idea in the executive briefing. Simon was in that briefing. I show Simon the original document. The approval chain. Name. The date 3 weeks before my boss presented it. The color drains from Simon's face. Neither of them confronts my boss directly. But they stop trusting him. They start watching. They start paying attention to the things he says. And they start noticing that there are inconsistencies everywhere. Once you see the lie, you can't unsee it. Once you know someone is dishonest, every word they say becomes suspect. I watch Lily and Simon begin to question everything. I see them exchange glances in meetings. I notice them cross-referencing claims with documentation. They've become investigators without even realizing it. And the more they investigate, the more inconsistencies they find. My boss has been living in a world where his word was law. Now there are people checking his word against evidence. And evidence always wins. My annual performance review arrives in my inbox on a Tuesday morning. It's early. Unexpected. I open the document with dread. The language is vague. Intentionally vague. Concerns. Patterns. Inconsistencies. Questionable judgment calls. No examples. No specifics. No incidents listed with dates and times. Just accusations floating in space like clouds with no foundation. I read it 3 times. Each time I feel colder. This isn't a performance review. This is a narrative. This is a setup. I schedule a meeting with him. I thank him calmly for the feedback. I ask him in writing to provide documentation. I want to see the examples. I want the dates. I want the data. His response comes the next morning, and I know immediately that I've caught him. His follow-up email contradicts everything he said in the review. Dates don't align. Metrics shift. The story he told verbally doesn't survive written scrutiny. And he knows it. I can feel it in the cautious language. In the hedging. In the sudden lack of confidence. He can't document his accusations because they don't exist. He made them up. And now I have proof. I save every email. Create copies. I forward them to my personal account. I'm building a case not with accusations but with his own words turned against him. The performance review was supposed to be his weapon. Instead it becomes my shield. And more than that, it becomes the first document in a series that will eventually prove his dishonesty to anyone who needs to see it. I respond to his follow-up email with questions. Just questions. Professional. Polite. Kind even. Could you clarify the timeline on the database redesign? I want to make sure these metrics are accurate. Can you point me to the source data? I'm a little confused about the approval process you mentioned. Could you walk me through your understanding of how that decision was made? Each question is a thread. Each thread, when pulled, unravels something. He tries to answer. But written answers create records. And records don't lie. Records can't be explained away later. Records can't be reframed in a follow-up conversation. His answers become increasingly convoluted. He contradicts himself. He references documents that don't exist. He mentions discussions that never happened. The more he tries to defend his position, the deeper he sinks. I'm not attacking him. I'm not accusing him. I'm just asking for clarification. But his own words become his downfall. His own documentation becomes the evidence against him. Paper doesn't lie. Narrative does. And right now, his narrative is collapsing under the weight of written records. I notice he starts avoiding email. He tries to have conversations in person, where there's no record. But I'm ready for that too. I follow up every verbal conversation with an email summarizing what was discussed. Just to confirm, I write. Here's what I understood from our conversation. I'm creating a paper trail. I'm documenting everything. And each email he responds to, each clarification he attempts, each explanation he provides just adds more fuel to the fire. He's burning himself down, document by document. I never go to HR demanding justice. I never file a formal complaint. I never raise my voice or get emotional. Instead, I ask HR procedural questions. I email the HR department asking about documentation standards for performance reviews. I ask about the approval process for budget decisions. I ask about the correct procedures for project attribution. I ask about company policy on credit sharing. Each question is innocent on its own. But together they create a paper trail. Suddenly this isn't personal anymore. It's structural. It's procedural. It's about policy compliance, not about interpersonal conflict. HR starts asking my boss the same questions. Officially. In writing. Suddenly, his carelessness becomes a compliance issue. Suddenly, this is about whether he followed company policy, not about whether he treated me fairly. Suddenly, there are rules involved. And rules are much harder to argue with than feelings. The beauty of this approach is that I'm not the aggressor. I'm not the one attacking. I'm simply asking legitimate questions about company procedures. And those questions trigger an official response from HR. Suddenly, my boss is being questioned by HR about his management practices. Suddenly, there's an official record of his inability to document his claims. Suddenly, the conversation has shifted from, did he treat her fairly? To, did he follow company policy? And those are two very different questions with very different answers. HR initiates a routine audit of project documentation and attribution practices. It's framed as standard protocol. Nothing unusual. Just checking to make sure the company is following its own policies. My boss smiles too much when he hears the announcement. I notice how often he checks his phone. How carefully he's choosing his words now in meetings. He knows something is wrong. But he doesn't know how wrong. He doesn't know how many documents I've preserved. How many timelines I've reconstructed. He doesn't know that Lily has already given a statement. That Simon has already provided documentation. He doesn't know that 3 other people are quietly gathering their own evidence. He's still playing the game, but the rules changed while he wasn't looking. The audit is official. The audit is documented. The audit has created a structure that he can't manipulate. He can't charm his way out of an audit. He can't tell a better story than the facts. All he can do is wait and hope that nothing surfaces. But everything is about to surface. And he doesn't even know it. Managers are interviewed as part of the audit. They're asked about major projects, about decision-making processes, about who contributed what, about how credit was assigned. Small discrepancies surface immediately. One manager says a critical budget decision was my boss's idea. Another says it came from the development team, specifically from me. A third manager mentions an email trail showing my original proposal. I remained silent through all of it, letting inconsistency do the work I never could. The auditors are trained to notice when stories don't align. These stories don't. Different people tell different versions of the same events. Different people remember different people being in charge. Different people have different emails about who made what decision. The picture becomes clear. My boss told different stories to different people. He rewrote his role depending on the audience. He took credit when it was convenient. He blamed others when necessary. The inconsistency itself becomes the smoking gun. A specific document is flagged during the audit. Metadata is pulled. Technical analysis is done. The metadata shows that the file originated with me, created 6 months before my boss presented it as his own work in a client meeting. The data is technical, completely undeniable, impossible to argue with or reframe. The document properties don't lie. The creation date doesn't lie. The creator information doesn't lie. 1 document becomes 2 documents. 2 becomes 5. Pattern emerges. The room goes quiet when they realize what the metadata is showing. My boss's face, when he understands that the audit found metadata proving his dishonesty, shows real fear for the first time. He understands that this isn't about opinion anymore. This isn't about he said she said. This is about technical proof. This is about facts that can't be argued away. This is about evidence that his entire narrative has been built on lies. My boss changes tactics. In the hallway, he compliments my resilience. You're tougher than most people, he says, like we're friends. Like we didn't just spend months in open conflict. He mentions mentorship opportunities. He offers guidance. He talks about how he believes in me. He puts his hand on my shoulder. Everything about it feels wrong. Everything about it feels like a trap closing. I recognize retreat disguised as generosity. I recognize a predator realizing he's been cornered and trying to make peace before the final blow falls. I accept his kindness coolly. I don't pull away. I don't show emotion. I just acknowledge it and move on. I know the audit is running. I know the evidence is mounting. I know his time is almost over. And I know that nothing he says now matters. The evidence is already collected. The audit is already finding inconsistencies. The timeline is already damning him. His sudden kindness is too little and way too late. Lily corrects a timeline in a team meeting. She's not doing it for me. She's doing it for accuracy. She mentions, matter-of-factly, that a certain project decision came from me, not from my boss. She cites the email. She provides the date. She simply states a fact. The moment isn't dramatic. No one raises their voice. She's just making a correction. But in that moment, the silence I've maintained breaks. Not because I broke it, but because someone else finally did. My boss's expression changes. I watch it happen in real time. He understands in that moment that he's lost control of the narrative. Other people are now willing to speak. Other people are willing to correct the record. The conspiracy of silence that protected him is crumbling. And it's not crumbling because I betrayed him. It's crumbling because other people got tired of the lies. HR asks my boss for clarification on a specific document. He tries to explain. But every added detail contradicts another record. Every explanation creates a new inconsistency. He talks too much because he's afraid. Fear makes people verbose. Verbose people expose themselves. Each sentence digs deeper into the hole. Authority without honesty becomes exposure. Exposure becomes accountability. He's used to being believed. He's used to people accepting his version. But now people are checking. People are verifying. People are comparing his story to the documentation. And the documentation wins every time. He realizes halfway through his explanation that he's losing. But he can't stop talking. He can't stop trying. He keeps going, hoping that if he just explains more, if he just clarifies more, if he just provides more context, people will understand. But understanding is the last thing that's happening. People are understanding that he's been lying. People are understanding that he's been manipulating the narrative. People are understanding that he's dishonest. I'm invited to present my work to the HR team investigating the audit. Not to defend myself, just to explain. To walk through my projects. To clarify my contributions. To show the evidence. I prepare carefully. I organize chronologically. Create a clear timeline. I gather documentation. Emails. Approval chains. Version histories. Screenshots. Everything labeled. Everything clear. I walk into the conference room and present calmly. Methodically. No emotion. No blame. No anger. Just sequence. I walk them through the projects one by one. The timeline of each decision. The documented proof of each contribution. The approval processes that show my role. The emails that show my leadership. The version histories that prove authorship. My voice is steady throughout. My facts are clean. I'm not angry. I'm just accurate. And accuracy is its own kind of power. By the time I'm done, the room is silent. And I know I've won. For the first time, my boss has nothing to say. When HR gives him the opportunity to respond to my presentation, he opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again. The words don't come. He tries. I can see him trying. But there's nothing to say. How do you argue with facts? How do you challenge evidence? How do you reframe the truth? He understands finally what silence can do when it's patient, when it's built on truth, when it's backed by evidence, when it's inevitable. His silence is an admission, and everyone in the room knows it. His silence is louder than any defense he could offer. His silence is the white flag. His silence is surrender. He's used to winning through aggression and confidence. But you can't attack the truth. You can't intimidate evidence. You can't out-talk documented facts. And so he sits there silent. The way he forced me to be silent. The way he thought my silence meant defeat. Now he's learning that silence in the face of truth is just honesty with nowhere to hide. HR concludes their investigation. The report is issued. The language is neutral, clinical, factual. Project attribution errors identified. Misrepresentation of authorship. Documentation inconsistencies. Policy violations on multiple counts. Inaccurate performance review based on unsubstantiated claims. The language is neutral, but the meaning is clear. My boss broke the rules. My boss manipulated the narrative. My boss lied. The law. He didn't break that. No crimes were committed. But the company's rules. Those he shattered completely. The company's policy on attribution. Violated. The company's standards for honest communication. Violated. The company's process for fair performance reviews. Violated. The investigation finds that he systematically took credit for work that wasn't his. That he systematically misrepresented my contributions. That he systematically undermined my credibility to justify removing me from leadership. His career doesn't end in drama. It ends in a memo. Paragraph. Finding. Undeniable. Documented. Final. My boss is removed from his leadership position pending the investigation outcome. No announcement is made to the staff. No explanation is offered. He's just gone. His office is locked. His access is revoked. His email is deactivated. His authority is stripped. He's not fired yet, not officially. But he's powerless. The investigation continues. His position is frozen. His future is uncertain. And everyone in the office knows what's happened without being told. I watch people walk past his empty office without looking. That's what happens when you lose the narrative. People don't fight for you. They don't advocate. They don't defend you. They just walk past like you were never there. Silence from allies is the final punishment. And he's experiencing it now. The same isolation he created for me is now his reality. The same invisibility he forced on me has become his invisibility. My role is restored. My title is reinstated. My authority is officially recognized in a formal letter from HR. My credibility is reinforced. My work is properly attributed. The record is corrected. My name is restored to the projects. Timeline is fixed. The truth is documented. But more than all of that, I leave knowing I didn't lose myself trying to defend my name. I didn't scream or fight or beg. I didn't get emotional or vengeful. I didn't break any rules or cross any lines. I let truth arrive on its own schedule. And when it arrived, it came fully armed. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not sad. I'm just quiet. The same quiet I chose at the beginning. But now it's the quiet of someone who won. The quiet of someone who was patient. The quiet of someone who trusted in facts over feelings. And he knows it. Everyone knows it. The narrative has shifted. The truth is documented. And I'm finally heard. Not because I spoke, but because my silence spoke louder than his lies ever could.